Hi, welcome to MERA25 YouTube channel. Here is Simone Mariotti. Usually I interview in Italian, but today the interview will be in English because we crossed the border and because our topic will be today Sudan. And together with us we have Eiman. Eiman, welcome. Thank you to be here with us today. Thank you very much.
Hi. Thank you for having me, Simon. I'm very glad to have this interview with you.
Thank you very much, you too. And I'm really looking forward to this interview because it was for a while that I wanted to talk about Sudan. And the reason is because I don't want to say that we don't have news or info about Sudan, but for sure, these are not that much as we have from our countries and like where there are other conflicts. So I wanted really to talk with someone from Sudan that could explain a bit better what is happening and also to give an a better perspective directly from the inside, let's say, because also I'm a little bit worried that we have anyway bias or that what we know could be not exactly or anyway exactly as I said, not from the media from there. I could find a lot of information, of course, from international channels, also from, for instance, not European or not American from Al Jazeera. But exactly for me was really important to have you here today. So thank you very much. I would like, first of all, to introduce you. So about Eiman. Eiman is an architect. She studied in Khartoum and then she moved in Germany for the master. After that, she went back to Sudan and she remained there until the military coup in 2021. During her stay in Sudan, she was also involved physically and online in the grassroots movements. And when she left in 2021, she went for 1 year in Dubai, and also she went back to Khartoum until April 2023, exactly when this last conflict started. Right now, she lives in Cairo in these last 2 years, where she lives and work and lives with also with the family. So a lot of things happen in these last years. I would like to understand a bit better also what happened during these years, also through your experience, also all these times that you have to move to Germany, to Dubai, and so on. But also, I would like to focus on your experience in the movement as an activist, because what I would like to understand is what does it mean to be an activist in Sudan? Because I've been an activist, I'm an activist, but I'm an activist in Italy right now, and I mean, it's quite easier probably to be an activist about related to to human rights, to environment, and so on. But from a privileged point of view, so what does it mean being an activist in Sudan?
I will just add, I'm not specifically we're moving because of my political activism. There are also many layers of personal, maybe situation that made me move and come forward and move from Sudan and coming back to Sudan. So as you mentioned, I was living in Sudan. I graduated from University of Khartoum. I studied architecture and was trained and practicing architect to be an architect in Khartoum and working in the construction field. Uh, I uh, I graduated actually in 2005 from Khartoum University. So I stayed like 5 to 6 years in Khartoum working. I I tried to do a master's in outside of Sudan because, seeking better education in Europe was maybe better idea than having a master's in Khartoum. So I found some university, I applied and I got, admission, and I went for 2 years. I came back I went in 2011 to Germany and I finished in 2013. When I came back, also there was a movement in Sudan. There was the Arab Spring in the area, and many countries changed their government, and also in Sudan there were some movement, but the government at the time brutally killed people in the streets, and this movement didn't eventually succeed in changing anything. Also, it was erupted because of the government raised the subsidies on petrol and some goods in the country. So that was the situation in 2013 when I came back. Also, one important factor is also South Sudan became an independent country in 2011. Also, that means Sudan lost a big portion of its also petrol and some resources, and that affected, as you know, the incomes and the living situation in Sudan. So that was the situation after I came back. The coming 5 years between 2013 to 2018. Also, it was many political unrest. Also, the economics also conditions are becoming rougher and rougher. There are cash problems, fuel problems, and electricity cuts, and so on. And that eventually made the 2018 revolution started, which succeeded in 2019 to overthrow Bashir, the government, the dictator for 30 years, and a transitional government. Then I was, here I was active in this area in the revolution. Until maybe 2019, the Bashir is gone and the transitional period started. And also there are ups and downs, many conflicts are going on. And until the COVID also was an important factor. In 2021, the military made a coup against the civilian part of the government, and also the situation began to deteriorate again. Also, for personal reasons, at this time I decided to leave Sudan to work outside. I went to the Gulf area. I worked in Dubai for maybe like 9 months or so, and I came back after the coup. Also, the situation was very, very deteriorated, ups and downs, and arrests in the streets, and shooting for the people demanding change, and it was very tough. And then in 2023, the war erupted, so I had to leave Khartoum with my family to come to Egypt, where we are since living here, and I was working here. So for summary, it wasn't in my plan to leave Sudan at any point. It just happened to seek education or to seek better work conditions, and then also all the time the plan was to come back to Sudan. But yes, as you said, the situation for activists is not that easy because there were very tough military coup and arrests and targeting activists. But I wasn't that in danger. I was never arrested. I didn't get injured or something, but yes, sometimes we were in the middle of a group in the streets, and the police just came and started shooting, but it just luck, I think, but that's why I didn't get shot at or something. So over to you.
And about activists, how is the situation in Sudan related to activists? There are movements or the situation there it doesn't permit people really to gather and to try to do anything.
Right now, you mean? Yes,
Mhm.
it's very challenging because it's not safe at all for people together because they can got killed at any moment because it's a war zone really in most of the areas. Even the areas where there is no direct conflict or clashes in the streets, there are drones and bombing coming from other places, and it just killed people in schools, in hospitals. So any civilian area could be a target. So that's why there is not a lot of activists going on the streets. But I think the activists now have also bigger problems at hand. They are trying to help people going from very dangerous areas to more safer areas, to accommodate, to feed people who are not finding ways to live, and to also supply some aid for medical or teaching or something. So that's, I think, also kind of activism, or maybe struggling. People are struggling so they could make some change in the situation on ground at the moment.
So, talking about Sudan, when I got the permission, let's say, to do this interview, I started to study a bit more. I thought I had already quite good knowledge about the situation in Sudan, but starting to go deeply and knowing better the topic, I discover it was it's a huge topic. And I really, honestly saying, I started to doubt I had the capacity to conduct an interview related to Sudan because not because I was not able to find questions, but I had and I have too many questions to and it's so there is so much to say about Sudan that what I mean is I need your help too because I would like to make you to make our listener, the people who are watching this video, to make better understand what I mean. I would like to just show some facts, like, for instance, we are talking about the third largest country in Africa, population of 50 million people in 2014, and exactly the 1st January 1956, Sudan was declared an independent state, but of course it was divided between north and south. I mean, north and south in terms of ethnicity, cultural aspects, religious aspects, Muslim people in the north, Christian people in the south, and this brought to many problems that we are facing still today. So, if we talk only, for instance, about the last 2 years, when this last conflict started, we have already 150,000 killed. We have more than 12 millions displaced and more than 24 millions facing acute hunger. So these are numbers that I know and I have to read again and again because it's really difficult it's impossible. It's just impossible to imagine all these incredible numbers. So we are facing the largest humanitarian crisis globally. So thinking about all of these, I was like, I can't, I can't conduct a so complicated interview. That's why I thought what I could ask you at the beginning of our conversation was how to approach this topic, how to understand Sudan, at least today, this last conflict.
Yes, as you said, it's too complicated to have it in one interview or just a summary of a few question and answer. But I could say that Sudan is, as you said, one of the biggest countries. It was the biggest country before it was divided to North and South. Now it's number three after Libya and Saudi Arabia, with also, as you said, a diverse number of tribes and people living with different cultures, different ethnicities, different maybe even religions. Uh, and yes, that was simply the simplest way to put it between North and South, that there were Muslim majority and Arab culture in the north, and the Catholic and non-Muslim in the south, and that's why the divide happened between North and South Sudan, and it was a very long war, maybe for more than 40 years war between the North and the South. But after the south of Sudan also became an independent country, also the remaining people living in the what known now as North Sudan also is as diverse as possible. So that also could add to the struggle happening now in Sudan. But also, as you said, the independence and the borders between countries in the global south was one of the factors making problems between the countries. For instance, between Chad and Sudan, there are tribes which were literally the same tribe. Your cousin could be Chadian when you are Sudanese, because just a border was drawn in this line. And that was also one factor of the situation now of the conflict. The RSF is a paramilitary group coming from the western side of Sudan, and now their soldiers are brought from different countries, from Chad, from Central African Republic, from Libya, from many countries, just because they were the same ethnicity as the people who are fighting in Sudan right now. They are their people, their cousins, but they are from a different country background. Also, this happens in the north. The Nuba people in the north are divided between Sudan and Egypt, but very much more peaceful than other borders. Also happened in the east and in the south. Right now, also between Sudan and South Sudan, there is like a buffer zone, the ABA area, where there is still they should have been a borderline committee to decide where the border should be after Sudan and South Sudan divided into two countries, but that never happened until now. And there were also many tribes living in this area, which can relate to Sudan and South Sudan at the same time, and which are always crossing the borders between the two countries, and also that adding to the conflicts in this area. Also, these areas are in the south and western areas in Sudan are the areas rich in fuel and petrol. So also people in these areas are often nomad tribes, which they move with their cattle to the south and to the north according to the climate conditions. When it's the rainy season, they go with their cattle to herd in the areas which there are more greener, and other times they go back into their original areas. So also that adds to conflict, because some people are in farming and living in some areas, and those people sometimes attack them to come and live in their areas and make good of their lands. So as you said, and I said also, there is too many factors playing roles in the conflict in Sudan: the global warming, the cultural factors, the ethnic, the religion. But I think right now the religion is not very important factor because most of the people living in northern Sudan are Muslims, and even now the paramilitary and the army who are fighting are also supposed to be from the same ethnicity. They claim to be Arabs, and so there is no very big different race issues or religion issues in the last conflict, but it was previously sometimes. And that also said, the paramilitary killed more than 10 to 15,000 people in like 1 week in the western side of Sudan in an ethnic cleansing attempt, as the Security Council announced recently. And that, of course, has to be highlighted. So although the two fighting big groups are not very different in ethnicity, there are targeted ethnic cleansing and killing happening on the racial background. I don't know if this covers what you have in your question.
Yeah, yeah, no, actually, I would like to know then, from what you said, what is the situation right now? For instance, I read recently that Khartoum was declared free, but I mean, it's really free. We have to consider that this conflict began the 15th of April 2023. There are these two rival military groups, one from Al Burhan and the other one from Dagalo, the SAF and the RSF. So actually, I would like to hear from you, how is the situation right now there? And if so what we heard, like recently Khartoum declared free, could you explain that?
Yes, if you, yes, the war started in Khartoum because, as I said, the Sudanese army, SAF, the Sudanese army forces, and the RSF, the Rapid Support Forces, which was a paramilitary group, part of the military, the official military group. So they were both ruling Sudan after the coup I mentioned in 2021. So at some point they started to be rivals. Everyone wanted to be the ruler of the country. That made the clash at the beginning. So the paramilitary were already in Khartoum. They were in very strategic points. They were in the headquarters of the army. They were in the airports, the ministries, the presidential palace. So they were present at these strategic points. So what happened, as I see it, in the April 2023 was a coup attempt to throw Al Burhan and took over. The RSF wanted, and Dagalo wanted to take over the power. So what he started to do is to throw out the military partner of them out of these strategical places and to kill them. And he tried to kill even Burhan and the big military leaders in the capital. But that didn't went well because Burhan didn't die or got arrested. They fought back and he retreated to his headquarters. And also the army had the air force, which the military didn't have, the paramilitary. So they start bombing the camps of the paramilitary, and that led to the war. So after that, Burhan and the army stayed in their barracks and tried to defend their barracks. But the paramilitary was all over the capital, on the street, on the houses, on the hospitals, because when the Air Force attacked them, they destroyed all their medical supplies and camps, and they didn't find seek refuge in any area unless they attack the civilian areas. So they start taking the civilian hospitals, the houses, the schools, and to use them as military base for them. So people start fleeing Khartoum and going to other states in Sudan or outside of Sudan if they could. But the army remained in their barracks, as I said. Eventually, then the army retreated to other safer places in the north and east sides of the country. And the paramilitary, I think, moved to their plan B, which was to take as much land as they could, as much strategic areas as they could, so to force the army to come to negotiations and to share power again with them. So they took a Jazeera state, which was an also strategical state near Khartoum, which was or still is between the two rivers, the White and Blue Nile, and it's a very fertile land where there are big farming and agricultural projects. Also, they took Sinnar and some other areas, which where Sudan is having the cash crops, the dams, the electricity dams. These were strategical, I think, points in the area. So the paramilitary tried to take over all these areas, while the army, as I said, retreated to the north and east. They go to Port Sudan, the main port of Sudan in the Red Sea, and make this their administrative capital instead of Khartoum, and tried to regain power and started diplomatic, I think, connections to have maybe more weapons, as you know, and so on, to take back the. But that took too long. It lasted until last month. They make the move to take back Khartoum. They went to Sinnar, then Jazeera, then back to Khartoum in maybe March 2025, which is last month. So by that, they went all around, they went out of Khartoum and get back to Khartoum. As for your question, is Khartoum really free? I think it's also, yes, very complicated. Khartoum is totally destroyed, either by bombing by the forces, the air forces of the army, or the paramilitary intentionally destroyed everything. The national museums, all the functioning, electricity powers, water supplies, markets, banks, hospitals, everything. Sometimes even the personal houses of the people, they took their cars, their whatever money they have, whatever they can sell out of their houses, they take and sell in other markets, and even outside Sudan. Some cars are, tracked in Chad, in Niger, in some different countries. So Khartoum is destroyed. There is no, I think, RSF presence at the moment. But as I said, they are now also trying to bomb from outside Khartoum, from different states, to bomb also gathering of people even in houses and in schools and in hospitals, in mosques. So it's not totally safe, but it's sometimes, yes, you can see free of the RSF occupation which was happening.
There is one thing that is not clear to me. So when we talk about wars in different countries, present time, past, normally there is always someone you empathize, a section which you recognize yourself. In this case, keeping reading about this and studying about this conflict, so far I just see losers and or people that are losing actually the civilians. I I see like this is like a war between two military groups, but the civilians are totally forgotten. I ask myself where the civilians, where Sudanese put themselves. I hope it's clear the question, what I mean.
Yes, I think yes, you are right. The Sudanese people are not important to either parties of the war in military right now, because when I said the army was attacked, he just retreated to their barracks in safer areas. Even when they did an evacuation, they did it for, diplomatics, foreigners and important people in the country. They evacuate them out of Khartoum. But the civilians are on their own. You find your way out, or you stay and try to protect yourself by whatever means you find. That's why I mentioned that the grassroots organizations, which were active in the street at times, revolting, are now found themselves have to protect the people of Sudan and put them forward. So they started making safe shelters for people, trying to secure safe roads for people to evacuate from one place to another, trying to raise funds to start a communal kitchen to feed people, start to also get medical supplies, volunteer doctors and nurses to look after people who have terminal illnesses or injured during the war, or also bury people, because during the conflict the two parties just fight and go, leaving people dead and scattered in the streets or inside their houses. Some people actually were killed and or died inside their houses because they couldn't go out to find food, or that happened after some area is safe or secure enough. These volunteers go inside the houses and try to help whomever stayed, and to bury the dead, and to find to find solutions for daily lives matters. So and unfortunately also for the international community, Sudanese people are not in the forefront. As you know, globally there are many wars happening right now. There are Ukrainian-Russian war. There is what is happening in Gaza. So Sudan was not the priority at any time, and even the humanitarian aid and so on is not on the top priority of the funders or whomever is. So I think even globally there is a shortage in the funds for humanitarian aid, especially after Trump came to power and he, cut most of these funds, especially for the USAID, the Agency of International Developments. So that, yes, also affected what was happening in Sudan, and I think in Gaza also. And for also, yes, but Sudanese people, I think, are just and this is not new for this war, because this is not the first conflict in Sudan. Maybe it's the bigger or the first to happen in this area, in the capital, in Khartoum, and so on. But it was also like this. Sudanese people just try to do whatever they can to stay alive and to fight back and to reestablish their lives. That brings me again to your question about, is Khartoum safe? Khartoum, as I said, is not safe and might not be so free, because even the military is, as at the end, is a dictator, military government. But people are now trying to go back to Khartoum because, even the refugee situation all over the area is not the best condition for them, and also there is strict, restrictions for people to cross the Mediterranean, for example, to go to Europe or to seek refugee in other countries. So what they have at the end is to go back to whatever safety or security they can find and try to start their lives again and figure out what to happen. And if you talk to some Sudanese, they can say if we are back to what happened in 2022 or 2021, the coup, we can maybe have some civil movement and try to fight back the military. But war and killing and displacement is not something you can maneuver around. You have to get back to the safety and security of your house and try to be back in your normal daily lives, and then see how forward you can go.
So, going back on something you said just a couple of minutes ago about Sudan, rich of oil, I would like to talk a bit more about this, not about oil, of course, but about Sudan and the interest about Sudan. Sudan is a country where there is oil in South Sudan, for instance, but also gold. And it's an important country because of the migration from the south. It's important for China, for instance, because it's a door for Chinese to enter in Africa. Also, Israel, I discovered, has had some interest in Sudan, and the Gulf countries related to the Red Sea. But of course, in Sudan there is also the Nile. So fertile. So there are many reasons why Sudan could be interested. As I mentioned at the beginning, media don't cover this topic as much as other conflicts. But my question is, who is interested in Sudan? Because, of course, this is why I said all these things, because there has to be someone that is interested in this conflict.
Yes, actually, there are too many forces or parties are interested in Sudan, as you mentioned, because of many factors. As you said, Sudan was rich in oil, but as also I mentioned, most of the oil production is on fields on the South Sudan. But also this got interrupted by the war because the pipeline going out from South Sudan crosses Sudan, coming to the port in the Red Sea, where they start exporting oil. So during the conflict, the supply stopped, and I think now a few months ago there were an agreement between South and North Sudan, between South Sudan and the two military parties, the Sudanese army and the RSF, to agree on leaving the pipeline work, because Sudan has some portion of the transitional, I don't know, the fees of the oil crossing and exported from their ports. So for their interest, now the oil production is again back to normal. There are another fields of oil in the western side, as I said, but this now is under the RSF control, and they are not working at the time, because even the operating companies are Chinese and from Malaysia, from different countries. They stopped the work after the war and left Sudan. So no oil production at the time is coming out of Sudan, just the pipeline coming from South Sudan. For the gold, yes, the discovery of gold actually happened after Sudan loses its oil to South Sudan. And it's in the areas in the northern, maybe eastern parts of the country, which were now under the control of the Sudanese army. If we have the map of Sudan, we can draw a diagonal, maybe line like this. There is northern, eastern, and the middle area of Sudan. These are now all under the control of the Sudanese army, including the River Nile areas. And as you know, the life of Sudanese are always around the rivers and so on. And as I said, the area of the Jazeera with the fertile lands and the agricultural projects. And also there is an important Sahara land in the upper western side, which were the borders with Libya, Chad, and Egypt. This is, as I mentioned, Sahara with no inhabitants, but its importance comes from because it's a borderline. People coming from the north, from the center, the western and the southern area, crossing by land to Egypt and to Libya and to Chad, can cross from this area. It's known previously as it was a trade road. People used to take, cattle and some goods to sell in Libya and Egypt, and bring other goods from this area to sell in Sudan. But now it's like military supply line, very vital and important, because as you mentioned, these powers who were helping the two parties supply maybe from this side to the military, because they are near the western, the RSF, the western side. Their supply comes from Chad, from Libya, and sometimes from South Sudan also. So as I mentioned, the western part is under the RSF control. There are 5 states in Darfur, 4 of them is under the RSF control. Only the capital, Al-Fashir, is still under the military and their allied forces under their control, but they are under siege for more than 1 year now, and continually trying, the RSF continually trying to attack and to bomb and to target the vital lines of life, as I mentioned, the hospitals, the schools, and so on, and even the displacement camps. There was an attack to Zamzam displacement camp just last week. More than 400,000 people have to again be displaced from this camp to another area, and 30 of them were killed in that attack. Just Al-Fashir is under the control of, as I said, the army, but the other area of Darfur is all under the control of the paramilitary. There is also a buffer zone between the western and central part. There are states of Kordofan, which are now hot conflict areas. The army is trying to proceed from this area, and the paramilitary trying to push back. So people are trapped in this area, and it is still not clear who is winning the grounds at this time. So I think going back to the forces, or to the people, the entities interested in Sudan, there is no secret now that United Arab Emirates is the main backer of the paramilitary group, the RSF. And as I said, they were being supplying weapons and logistics and so on from Chad, South Sudan, and Libya. And even now they are recently trying to have an important airport in the middle of Darfur, in Niala. There is an airport in Niala which was deserted and not functioning, and now they are trying to operate from it some drones and some vital weapon that were attacking people from there. As for the army, I think Egypt and Saudi Arabia now are the main backers of the army. Egypt has, long history with Sudan. We were under the same rule as from the United Kingdom, and yes, they share even the military of Sudan. I think is at sometimes was part of the main armed forces of Egypt, and they were working together. So I think they went back a relation. So their interests in the area, I think, are the same. There were some interrupted, maybe time of conflict between Sudan and Egypt politically, but I think their interests were still in the same. Especially because the two countries are under the control of armed governors or something. So Egypt maybe played a bigger role in supporting the Sudanese army. I don't have concrete evidence that they are military helping, but I know they are supplying some logistics and taking the taking the majority of the refugees, the Sudanese refugees, and helping in other means. Also, Saudi Arabia, I think, as you mentioned, because of their interest in the Red Sea, as you know, Sudan and Saudi Arabia are just divided by the Red Sea. So the two countries have, I think, also common interest in protecting this area and their interest in the ports of the Red Sea against other powers who are also trying to play vital roles in the area. Also, I think Turkey and Iran are supporting the Sudanese army as militarily. They I think supplied some drones and weapons. I know they were deals, but also you can find some information of how much they are supporting the. For the Western countries, I think, especially for America and even Israel, I think their I don't know foreign strategy now for foreign countries is not to play directly to be a direct player in the area. You support some of the the main actors in the area of the region, like Saudi Arabia, United Arab Emirates, Egypt, and so on, to play the role of America or Israel in the country. So I think at the first few months of the war, there were mediation efforts, including America, United Arab Emirates, and Saudi Arabia, to try to have some negotiations in Jeddah between the RSF and the Sudanese army. That didn't also went well because the army, I think, thought they have no much ground or power to put on the table to negotiate around. So they, I think, tried to get back, regain the capital and the areas they lost to the paramilitary, and come back maybe for negotiations. The paramilitary at that time was eager to go into negotiations, and both were pushed by, as I said, by other powers in the area to go to the table. But now, after they lost most of what they took in the country, I think also they are reluctant to go to negotiate because they have nothing or no much to add to the table to negotiations. So yeah, this too complicated actually to cover in one question, but maybe we can touch again in another question.
Sure. Thank you. Yeah, of course. As we said at the beginning, every question could be an entire interview.
Interview. Yeah.
But yeah, exactly. Um, so you mentioned also Darfur and Zamzam. There were 400,000 displaced people from the Darfur refugee camp. Hundreds died. And during the days, I watched the BBC, and the moderator invited Sudanese activist also living in Cairo, just for one question. It was just 2 minutes, and just with one question related to, uh, or better, if she had some hope to go back at a certain point to Sudan. And the woman, the activist, replied clearly that for her there was no hope to go back to Sudan, not even in a near future. So, what's your point of view related to that? You have some hope. You are also in Cairo. You think it will be possible, or you have hope to go back to Sudan at a certain point?
Yes, I think also this is very complicated depending on which area you are trying to go back to, because as I mentioned, some areas are under control of other of this paramilitary group or the Sudanese army. For me, I came from Khartoum, and as I mentioned, the situation in Khartoum could possibly be livable. Some people are going back, especially now from Cairo, from other countries, back to Khartoum. Also, as I mentioned, because they have no other place to go, and even living as refugees is not, a long-term plan. It's just a situation you have to manage through until you find better situation. So for Khartoum, and as I mentioned, the areas in the maybe middle eastern or northern parts, life is gradually but slowly trying to become livable, as I mentioned. So people are trying to go back. Some schools trying to open for children who were out of school for 2 years now. Some hospitals are also working now. As I said, it's a still dangerous situation because bombing never stopped, and it's very fragile on the ground. The paramilitary might, come back again at any minute to fight in any area. But uh, the situation also for people in the western parts of Sudan, where the RSF are still taking control of the area, I think is a bit tricky because, as I mentioned, Darfur was in war at 2003. Or, as I said, many factors, the global warming, the farmers versus nomads situation, the racial also factor, because this paramilitary are supposed to be Arab, from Arab background. There are other ethnicities. There are four who are, Darfur is named after them. It's the Dar of the Four, the House of the Four. And also there are Masalid people and other minor groups in the area. These groups are not all in harmony, and RSF was used by Bashir to fight these people because they have rebels group trying to fight the government for better situation for themselves. So if you are from Darfur, your situation is much complicated than if you are from Khartoum. And now you are under the control of a paramilitary who kill your people, who displace them, who fight any, kind of normal living in the area, and trying to ethnic cleanse people and force them out of their lands, from their homes, and taking control of the area. I think, yes, it depends on the situation. It depends on also how the Sudanese army could reinforce their government or governance over the areas they control, how they will maybe supply some services for the people, trying to protect, give minimum protection for their lives, and try to solve the situation in food insecurity and so on. So for myself, I find there is hope because we have no other option. As I said, being a refugee is not a good situation for anyone. Even if you have your means of living, you're still a native. You are still not a native in a foreign country. You have restrictions in education, in movement, in freedom, in so many levels. And I think also the refugee situation depends on also where you are going, where you are coming from. I think maybe refugees from Ukraine were welcomed in Europe and got admission in education, for healthcare and housing and citizenship or whatever. But if you are coming from the global south, it's so much different. And I know the European Union is maybe making deals with countries like Egypt and even Sudan before Egypt, because this is a crossroad for refugee movement from Africa to Europe, to stop the refugees at this place or another place in Libya, in Egypt, in Sudan, so as not to cross the Mediterranean. And so no other places. People in Arab countries, also in the Gulf area, Sudanese people who went there have restrictions in their residency. Life situation is not so well. They can't find jobs. Also, the UNHCR is not could not cover all the necessity for everyone in every place. So yes, I think the only hope is for Sudan to find some peace and people to try to go back to their lives and try to maybe find a situation where everyone could live peacefully and maybe politically solve these problems and issues we are facing right now.
I have one last question. Do you feel safe in Cairo?
Also, this I think is a very complicated question. Also, as I said, I think we should take into consideration the background, your level of education, of I don't know, if you have income or not, if you can find job or not, if you live in a relatively good area or not, because as you know, there are no refugee camps in Egypt. You are on your own. You can go register in the UNHCR, but you can find sometimes some maybe compensation, some money, something. But you go find a place to live. You pay rent for most of the people. You find education for your children. You find if you need medical help, you find of course there are many organizations that help the refugees from inside Egypt or from outside, but not everyone have access to them, and they are still limited for the large number of people who came to Egypt from Sudan and other places. As you know, there are Syrians, people from Yemen, people from South Sudan, from Ethiopia, from different countries coming to Egypt. So yes, also if you know Egypt is or Cairo, I am living in Cairo, I can speak of Cairo is maybe segregated between, if you are wealthy or if you have nothing. people with living expenses can live in secure, guarded, compounds with everything available and so on. But people in other places are, living in maybe not organized, buildings, sometimes around, burial areas and in a very tough situations. Rape, killing, and harassment, and so on could happen at any moment. But relatively speaking, yes, I feel safe in Cairo because I came from a war zone, and I think, yes, for myself, I'm a bit comfortable right now in Cairo.
Okay, I understand that also this last question was too complicated just in a few minutes to answer. I hope I will be able to uh, have more time also talking about Egypt. But anyway, since we are now at the end of our conversation, I will just ask you if you would like to add something more, something we didn't touch, or something you want to, explain better. I would like to leave you some time now at the end if you want to add something.
I think we covered all we were trying to to talk about in this conversation. But yes, I think also as we mentioned earlier, there are many actors playing role in this war in Sudan, and as I said, this war nature changed over time because, as I said, it was just a military coup which failed and then brought to other places. Now I think there are a very I think. I think some countries are trying to play roles for Sudan to become maybe not very in always unrest, so as you mentioned to take over some interest they are targeting in the area. And I think there are many scenarios of how this could go forward from here. There is scenarios as what happened in Libya. As I said, there is now very clear division between the areas controlled between the RSF, under the control of the RSF in the west, and the Sudanese army at the north. And I think this have some similarity with what's going on in Libya right now. There are two governments, and the rapid support forces already in Nairobi last month had a gathering that they announced that they are on way to announce their government in the areas they are controlling. So maybe we can find ourselves in a situation similar to what is in Libya. Two governments, each one has backing groups from maybe Turkey, Libya, Turkey, Egypt, Saudi Arabia, United Arab Emirates, and so on. And there is also another situation, maybe also in Yemen, I think also more or less we have also similar situation of two divided government in two areas also. The Houthis are controlling some part of Yemen and are trying to, and there is another government. Also, there is a situation of what happened in Somalia in the 90s, I think, where there complete, disorder. Everyone is trying to fight everyone. Too many militias, too many groups fighting each other. Same, I think, displacement, tragedies, and people trying to flee the country, and famine, and so on. So I think there is also, as I said, always hope of that. I don't know if military conquering of one side to the other is completely and destroying the power of the other is possible. I don't see that coming in the near future, and that might maybe take more than 10 years of fighting or so on. But there is always negotiations and peaceful solutions for people to all agree on stopping this war and trying to find better ways to solve the conflicts going on, either international actors or the local parties who are now taking control of the country and warring between each other. I think that's all I can add now.
Thank you very much, Eiman. Thank you for sharing with us your time and your knowledge. I hope we will be able to talk again in the near future, sharing better news, good news related to Sudan. And yeah, thank you very much.
Thank you for having me. Also, I hope we can find another time to talk and sharing better news from Sudan. Thank you for your interest in Sudan.
I also want to thank you, all of you out there that watch this video. I always remember to like the video if you found this interesting and also leave some comments. It's always good to have some feedback and also to subscribe to the channel. And see you for the next interview. Bye bye.